You ever notice how the people who think they know you best actually see the least? I learned that in a house I spent most of my life cleaning. Yeah, you heard me right. Cleaning, not living, not dreaming, just putting shine on someone else's story, never really sure if I belonged anywhere at all. Funny how you can drift through years like a ghost, shoes soft as secrets, hair pinned tight, so nobody sees you're even there. But you see everything, you know? That morning wasn't supposed to be different. Sun pouring in, catching the dust in the air, me balancing a silver tray, clock ticking so sharp it felt like a second heartbeat. I pushed open those big double doors, peeked in just enough to see Charles Davenport buried in his newspaper at the end of the table. Never looking up, never needing to. The whole world already bending toward him whether he noticed or not. On paper, he was the boss, the money, the name. To everyone else, he was what you wanted to be, but standing in that doorway, I always saw it. That hollow spot he never filled, that weight around his eyes when he thought nobody was watching. So I slipped in, did the dance. Morning, Mr. Davenport. And he flicked a glance my way, more habit than greeting. Orders about flowers, reminders about guests. Always that calm, collected voice. And me with my chest tight, telling myself not to feel a thing, not after all this time. But I did. And it didn't matter how many years I'd been there or how many uniforms I'd washed. It was never enough to scrub that feeling out. I walked back out, told myself to breathe, and caught Sam playing outside, his laughter bouncing through the kitchen door, cheeks pink, hair a mess. That kid could light up a room just by being in it. Sometimes I swear I saw pieces of Charles and Sam. His eyes, the tilt of his head, little things nobody else caught. But for me, every day it got harder to pretend I didn't notice. Annie Mae called from the kitchen, her voice bright, pulling me back, but the worry stuck. Sam was watching Charles more these days, and that's a danger you don't plan for. Later, while dusting the staircase, Evelyn Davenport's voice carried through like it always did, silky, southern, sharp as glass, reminding me how nothing ever escaped her notice, especially not Sam, especially not me. She was grace and steel, pearls and perfect posture, but behind those soft smiles, there was always a question hanging in the air. And I knew one day she'd want an answer I couldn't give. That by midday. The house was humming with quiet prep. Guests coming for the big gala. The kind of night where Savannah's who's who showed up in their best. And my job was to vanish into the background. Just another steady hand making it all work. Miles, the estate manager, caught me by the crystal cabinet and dropped a hint. You ready for tonight? His tone all warmth and mischief, but the knot in my stomach just pulled tighter. Galas meant spotlights, whispers, Charles laughing with people who only saw what they wanted. I kept my head down, promised myself it was just another shift, no different than any other. Serve, clear, disappear. But walking into that ballroom, chandelier lights dripping gold onto the polished floors, I couldn't shake the sense that something in the air was about to change. Charles was at the far end, surrounded by laughter, shoulders back, all charm. And for a moment, I just watched, feeling a flicker of something I'd worked too long to bury. Annie Mae broke the spell, nudging me back to the kitchen, her look saying more than words ever could. The night rolled on, but deep down, I knew we were all standing on the edge of something. Me, Sam, even Charles, whether he realized it or not. And then came the twist, because life never stays quiet, does it? You think secrets are locked up, but they're always leaking out through cracks in the walls. Sam, my Sam, always so curious, snuck into the ballroom in his Sunday shirt, face bright with hope, and right in the middle of that glittering crowd, he walked straight up to Charles, tugged on his tuck sleeve, and asked, loud as you please, Daddy, will you play with me after dinner? I swear the world stopped. Glasses froze, heads turned, and all the air seemed to vanish at once. Evelyn's face went pale, the mayor choked on his drink, and me, I was rooted, half dying inside, half ready to throw myself between them. Charles looked down at Sam, something shifting behind his eyes, and the hush stretched until I finally found my feet and hurried over, mumbling apologies that tasted like sand. Who is this boy? He asked, voice steady, and the answer stuck in my throat. He's my son. The crowd buzzed, gossip already spinning out. But Charles just stared, and I couldn't tell if he saw the truth or was running from it. Sam, bless him, just wanted to know if he'd done something wrong, and that broke me in a way nothing else could. The next day, Savannah was alive with rumors, neighbors peeking through curtains, whispers trailing me from the market to the mailbox. Evelyn cornered me, warning soft but deadly, her meaning clear. If the town decided where Sam belonged, it might not be with me. All day, the walls closed in. Even Miles, who usually kept to himself, stopped me in the hall, saying Charles hadn't come out of his study since the gala. That night, after putting Sam to bed, I sat at our tiny table, staring at one of his crayon drawings. Two stick figures, blue eyes, the word Dad scribbled above. Annie Mae found me, her voice gentle but sharp, telling me I couldn't hide forever, that maybe I wasn't just protecting Sam. Maybe I was protecting myself from a hurt I didn't want to feel. She was right, but admitting it was harder than scrubbing out a wine stain from linen. Sam kept trying, leaving drawings for Charles on the front steps, hope in his eyes every time he asked if maybe today would be different. One morning, Miles caught us placing a picture on the porch, and instead of brushing us off, he said he'd make sure Charles saw it. Later, I found the drawing tucked between books in the library, not hidden, not thrown away. I held it for a long time, wondering if maybe, just maybe, the walls were starting to shift. Eventually, it came to a head. Leah Parker, the nosy reporter, had her sights set on our story, and Miles warned me we were running out of time. Charles found me in the greenhouse, his eyes tired, his voice low, and said we needed to talk about Sam, about us, about what came next. I told him the truth. Yes, Sam was his. I'd kept the secret to protect my boy, to keep him from being a pawn in a life he never chose. Charles didn't get angry, didn't shout, just stood there and asked why. I told him I was afraid he'd use Sam, or worse, ignore him. He promised he wouldn't, said he wanted to know him, but on Sam's terms. Of course, Evelyn stormed in, trying to control the story, but for the first time, Charles stood his ground, said this one was his to tell. And so, with the world closing in, Charles and I finally sat down with Sam and told him the truth. I expected tears, confusion, maybe anger, but he just asked if this changed everything. I told him only if he wanted it to, and he nodded, brave as ever, and said we could try. But the world wasn't going to let it be that easy. Leah got her photo, splashed our story across the society page, and suddenly the house was filled with casseroles and curious glances. Some folks were kind, some just wanted gossip, but through it all, we stuck together. Me, Charles, Sam, a team, as Sam called it, meeting for dinners once a week, building something real out of the mess. The truth is, for years I thought love had to be big, dramatic, the kind of thing people wrote about. But turns out, it's the small things that last. The late-night drawings, the laughter in the garden, the way Charles saved every one of Sam's sketches. The scandal faded, as scandals always do, but what stayed was our choice to stand together, not because we had to, but because we finally could. Now, I know some folks will say I did wrong, that secrets are poison, that the truth should have come out years ago. Maybe they're right. Maybe there's no perfect answer. But standing on that veranda at dusk, the house finally quiet, Charles beside me and Sam's laughter drifting through the open window, I wouldn't trade a single moment of this messy, hard-won family for anything the world tried to offer. So, what do you think? Was I right to keep the truth, or should I have risked everything sooner? Tell me below, because honestly, I'm still figuring out where justice ends and forgiveness begins, and I'd love to hear what you think.